Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Michelle Marks, Chancellor of the University of Colorado, Denver, and I'm so honored to welcome you to this installment of my Chats with the Chancellor video series. So I'm very honored to sit down today with Phil Washington. Phil is the CEO of Denver International Airport, and he's leading the airport's expansion as it prepares to support 100 million passengers by 2027. He has deep roots in Denver transportation, having led RTD through unprecedented expansion. And I'm also so excited that CU Denver and the airport are working together to create a roadmap for a future partnership. Phil, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me, and welcome to Denver International Airport.
Thank you. So you lead an organization that literally sees 78 million passengers a year. And you were once asked to describe yourself in a single word, and you said Chicago. And then you followed up with South Side. Can you talk a little bit about your leadership experiences early on in urban environments?
I grew up on the South Side in public housing with a single mom. It was 6 of us. I'm the only son of 6, so I have 5 sisters. And so we struggled at times in public housing. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
So you had 24 years in the U.S. Army. CU Denver, by the way, is proud to be recognized as a military-friendly university. Can you talk a little bit about how your time in the military influenced your leadership style?
Fort Carson in Colorado was my last duty station. And this is where I decided to retire and met a lot of people, pushed a lot of troops, if you will. And very, very proud of that service. But I think some of the things that I think about are the lessons that I learned while in the military. The value set and how to bring people together, how to motivate people from diverse walks of life. All of those kinds of things is what I think about during my military service. And
after your time in the Army, you came to Denver, and you were the CEO of RTD. What stoked your passion for transportation?
My passion for transportation really stems from my upbringing in Chicago. And so we didn't have a car early on. My mother did not have a vehicle. And so I learned very, very early about frequency of buses. I learned very, very early about trains. I learned very, very early about the need for public transportation in a major urban environment, and just the reliability of transit, or the lack of reliability of transit, had a huge impact, not just on our family, but many, many families.
That's really interesting. And as you have been involved in public transportation in different places and spaces, how do you see the role of public transportation evolving, or do you see the role of public transportation evolving, and how has it evolved now in 2024 and maybe into the future?
Well, I think public transportation is always designed to connect communities. And so this idea of connection, and I know that there's been instances throughout the last 75 to 100 years where transportation projects have actually disconnected communities. And so this idea, whether it's a highway going through the middle of an area that separates different people, different ethnicities in various cities and various locales, this idea of connecting with public transportation has always been sort of in the back of my mind.
I know that you have been a proponent of public-private partnerships, and when you led RTD, you were a part of the partnership that developed the line from Denver to the airport, which has been called the line that saved Denver, the train that saved Denver, something like that. Can you talk a little bit about your philosophy about partnerships and what was behind that?
I've always said that we should look at the project. We should decide what the best project delivery method is, and sometimes it may not be a public-private partnership, but we should look at the project and determine how to deliver it for the good of the public and the people that are going to use it. The A-Line, the train that saved Denver.
Yes, the train that saved Denver.
Yeah. It was a project that we were looking to accelerate, first of all. And we could accelerate it through the private sector, bringing us ideas, bringing equity to the table to help us fund the project up front with a payback on the back end. We delivered that project, the A-Line from Denver and the other two rail lines, because people just talk about the A-Line. We actually delivered two other rail lines in that public-private partnership that was called EAGLE, the EAGLE P3. We delivered all of that 11 years earlier than was planned.
Wow.
We saved about $300 million on that project that allowed us to do the line in Aurora and allowed us to do the North Line up to 124th. We're actually the capital of P3s, or public-private partnerships. The EAGLE P3 that includes that A-Line was the first commuter rail transit P3 in this country, and it's still the only commuter rail public transit P3 in this country.
Is that what you're most proud of? Would you look back on that project, or you mentioned Union Station, like when you look back on that first phase, what jumps out at you at your most proud accomplishment?
Well, obviously the building of infrastructure, very, very proud of that.
Yes.
But I'm most proud of the development of people. That is what I'm most proud of. Getting people ready to lead organizations, bringing people together and providing education and training. Brick and mortar is one thing, but human capital and the development of human capital is the most important thing to me.
Yeah. Let's talk for a minute about your time in Los Angeles, leading the Metro Transportation Authority there. Talk with me a little bit about what you learned from that environment and whether there are learnings that you were able to bring from your leadership there to benefit Denver in your current role.
Walking in there, I was walking into an environment where in about a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years, that whole county was going to vote a measure, a sales tax measure for transportation. So it was very, very similar to Fast Tracks, what I had just done at RTD, where we were successful with the passage of a sales tax. The magnitude of Los Angeles is much, much larger. It's a county, and it's 10 million people in that county. The thing I learned there was go for it all in terms of a half-cent sales tax. In Denver here with Fast Tracks, we went for that sales tax at 30 years. I wanted to go for a sales tax that had no end in Los Angeles because one recession kills your program if you have something with a duration of only 30 years. And so that sales tax for the first 40 years will generate $120 billion and create over 300,000 jobs. And so we were able to get that passed in probably the most diverse county in America, and bringing people from all walks of life together to pass that measure at a 71% approval rating. So this is really unheard of. It's the largest local or countywide transportation measure in the history of America.
Anything lessons that you're taking back from LA that you've put in place or thinking about and helping you lead here in Denver?
Looking out into the future, I think is so important. That vision becomes so very, very important. I think about our infrastructure forefathers, right, that built the Hoover Dam, that built the interstate highway system, built the transcontinental railroad. They were looking way out. We are building for our grandchildren and their children. That is who we are building for. I've brought a lot of lessons to the airport here. This is the essence of Vision 100, where we are saying And we're even looking beyond that. We're looking at Operation 2045, I call it. And Operation 2045 begins to think when this airport has 120 to 125 million annual passengers coming through here. So this idea of looking way out, I think, is an example and a legacy of our infrastructure forefathers from years past.
That is amazing. And speaking of long term, I know that the airport transformation that's happening right now is just the first part of, as you mentioned, of the strategic vision that you have. Can you talk about your vision for truly building and supporting a world-class leading airport?
I think in the context of travel, I think we have to be prepared for people living longer. And what does that mean for travel?
Yeah.
We have to think about demographics around the world.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a worldwide sort of travel model here. We also have to think about how the mega trends that we see coming will impact transportation. Looking out and determining what that means for transportation and what that means for not just aviation, but what does it mean for our roads? What does it mean for our bridges? Our bridges were not designed for the volume of traffic that they're seeing now. How do we manage those assets and take care of the infrastructure that we currently have, let alone building new infrastructure? How do we take care of the infrastructure that we currently had when it's seeing volumes that they were never designed for? And so we need to think about that. That's the future we need to be thinking about.
How does that impact your leadership? I mean, what changes do you think we need to make and transportation systems need to make to be able to keep up with the shifts that we're seeing globally?
I think we need to be open to innovation even more than we are. And that means, in my mind, listening to young people. We need to allow innovation, and we need to be responsible and allow for what I call well-intentioned failure. Well-intentioned failure, because if we do not tolerate or allow for well-intentioned failure, then people won't bring their ideas to us. And so I think we need to listen to those ideas from our young people, listen to those ideas around project delivery, and adopt them when it makes sense.
I'd like to talk a little bit about talent, but maybe start with talking about what this airport has done for the ability for Denver to be seen as a world-class city.
Well, I think the airport has just been one of the catalysts for the growth of Denver worldwide. I think that our willingness to think about alternative project deliveries, not just with the airport, but our rail system, Union Station, those kinds of things. I think you can't forget, that we're an NBA champion too. And, we got Coach Prime at CU. I mean, so Denver is not a secret anymore. And so there's more and more people coming here, just like this airport. This airport was designed for 50 million annual passengers, and we're at 78 million right now, and we're going to hit 100 in a couple of years. So I think people think about this airport, they think about growth, and they think about how iconic the airport it is in its design, if you will, as well.
Talk to me about your belief in how we need to be developing our talent, whether it's in college or lifelong learning or other educational experiences to support the workforce of now and into the future.
Well, I think about a couple of things. I mean, we have stood up what I call a center of equity and excellence in aviation. And this we envision to be a world-class, one-of-a-kind center 3 pillars. The first pillar is to put together career pathways for young people. When a young person comes in and they say, hey, I want to be a pilot, or I want to be an aircraft mechanic, or I want to be something else, they don't quite know the pathway. So we are building career pathways for them. You start here, you go here, you do this, you're an intern, we bring you on, and all the way from, I say, cradle to executive leadership. The second pillar is developing small businesses to work in an aviation environment. So we developed a 9-week course for small, minority, women-owned, veteran-owned businesses to work in an aviation space, 9 weeks. The third pillar, the third and final pillar, is innovation and research. We want to be able to research various things in the infrastructure space and then test that innovative idea in the laboratory. And the laboratory is the airport. We are already doing the programming for all 3 of those, and now we're building the physical, the brick and mortar center right under the hotel, the Westin Hotel here, about 70,000 square feet to house that. We want to be the Silicon Valley for aviation talent in the world.
I love that, and I look forward to our organizations finding ways to partner because we develop talent as well, and I think we share a lot of the same values. I just want to wrap up and ask you, what do you love the most about your job?
The people. And the unpredictability of everyday life at a large international airport. It's great. And I love that spontaneity of the job. And I love the fact that we don't do the same thing every day.
We're so lucky to have you here at the home at Denver Airport, and I'm so appreciative of your time and the opportunity to sit down here with you today and have this conversation.
Well, thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.